In a dark world, remember to be the light. Welcome to Black Swan Revelations. Here is your host, the Black Swan himself, Shane.
All right, we're ready today for a special edition of Overtime. I have 2 mugs today to prepare for this awesome show. So how you guys doing today?
Doing good. Doing
all right. Thank you for asking.
You're welcome. Let's get started. What's going on in the world, man?
Well, you want to hear about, before we go to the world in general, you want to hear about a really strange experience I had today, or last night, I should say. I have been known, here's a whole new facet of Bible study with Derrick that you've never heard before. And, don't think I'm crazy. I have had multiple dreams in the past where I could see the future like a day in advance. Okay. And that happened to me again last night. I had a dream last night, and in my dream, and here's what's wild. It is never anything important. It's always something so trivial. I had a dream last night of a monkey playing with a kitten. And I thought, that's just random. That's crazy. That's wild. Today, a friend of mine sends me a video of a monkey playing with a kitten. So I can't tell you how many times this has happened to me in the past, where I'll have some dream and it's something very trivial, and then boom, the next day it happens. And it leaves me thinking, why can't I ever have something important? Like, why couldn't God tell me when the rapture is or something? Have a dream about that? Never. It's always something trivial, but it's just always so wild when it happens. And the only thing I can say is maybe God's preparing me so that when he tells me something important, I don't doubt it. That's the only thing I can say, because I don't know why I would have such a specific dream, and then boom, the next day it happens. But it's nothing. It's like trivial. So,
wow, that's pretty cool. I know I had a dream the other day. I told it to my wife, and I said my dream was so real, so vivid, that in the dream, I took a pair of clothes and I threw them down on the kitchen floor. And in the dream, like 5 minutes later, they were folded up in my bedroom in the closet. It was like amazing. And I shared with her, I said, look, it was almost like this. Watch this. When I drape this over one of my chairs, if I come back in 5 minutes, that is going to be hanging up in a closet. I'm telling you, there's some kind of space-time continuum thing going on. And my wife just rolled her eyes. She's like, get out of here. Just get out of here.
I've seen a video like that. The guy was like, he's like, I've been testing this theory for a while. It was like some video, and he's like, got this table, and he's like, man, anytime I set things on this table, they like automatically disappear. And he's like, you know what I mean? He's like, watch. And he sets the cup down, and he's like, all right, now we wait. You know what I mean? He's like, I've tested this theory for a long time. And just out of nowhere, it'll be in the sink, and then later on, it'll be in the dishwasher. And dude, I don't know how it's happening, but this is going on. You know what I mean? It was funny. And it's like, no, dude, your wife is taking care of it, and you're messing it up. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's too funny. I haven't seen that video.
Oh, it's hilarious, dude.
I have to watch it. Oh, that's too funny. Okay, let's get back to serious stuff here. Whew, I need my puffer for that one. That caught me off guard.
That was a good way to get started, though, right? I mean, right out the gate.
Yep. All right. So, Repo Man, how are we doing today?
Good. March 26th.
Okay. So, is that a new date approximately? Or is
that's the triumphant entry. That's the day Jesus rode in on the donkey and the colt. That's also the day Joshua entered the promised land. So Heather R. believes that's when Daniel's 70th week begins. And so we have to be out of here before that. Now, she says it's April the 8th because she's using the Hebrew calendar, which I disagree with. But I do agree with her getting to that date of the triumphant entry. So at some point before the triumphant entry. What is this, the 18th?
Okay. 18th day.
Yeah.
The big 1-8.
We're in the end zone.
Happen.
Either way, We're in the end zone.
Look what's going on over there in Iran right now. Yep. We are definitely in the end zone.
So the last I heard, Trump had some, I don't know if it was executive decisions, but basically, was he sending a carrier to the region and then going to
he sent 3.
3 carriers?
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
did one of the carriers get hit? Because that's almost impossible.
No, we sunk Iran's ship that they've had floating around out there for 3 years. United States took it down. They might have attempted to do something. They didn't sink anything. No,
because you can't even touch a aircraft carrier in this day and age.
Yeah,
because they have a whole fleet of ships protecting it. So there's no way.
The 4th ship will be on its way in 7 days, or it'll be there, and it's being maintenance, or it's undergoing maintenance, and will leave. I think they say. Is that right, Josh? In 7 days?
I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry. I was looking at the live chat.
I said the 4th carrier will be leaving after some maintenance is done, and it takes 7 days for it to get there. Did you hear the same thing?
I mean, I know it takes them a few days to get over there. It takes a while. It doesn't just happen overnight.
There's no way they're going to have 4 carriers though in that region, because they only have
there's multiple.
4.
There's multiple.
No, sure. like aircraft carriers. You don't put all 4 in one region.
Well, also when they send out those aircraft carriers, they always accompany them with submarines underneath. Like they're always around.
Yeah.
So it's a fleet. It's a fleet that's going out there. It's not just a couple.
Yeah, usually it's a carrier, and then it has a whole fleet of destroyers, battleships.
Yeah, that's why they sent all that, because they don't want to get out there and get one sunk and half the fleet's gone. They want to go out there in force and show Iran, it's time to back down. Iran's got to put up or shut up at this point. They either got to fire whatever it is they've got to fire, at which point I think it's going to fail and take out Damascus. I think Iran's going to be the one to accidentally take out Damascus.
Not to try to hone in on stuff I talk about on my channel, and so I'm going to be careful here, but this is absolutely fulfilling the Albert Pike 3 World Wars document, and in us seeing this take place really is more concerning than anything else to me. Ukraine, Russia, all that mumbo jumbo distraction stuff, like I've said before. You know what I'm saying? World War III will start in the Middle East. The Bible talks about it. All right, it's very clear. And then also the people who are the elite, the world's elite, the Illuminati, whatever you want to call them, Satanists, they also have written out since, times past what they plan to do. And it's about turning the Muslim Arabic world against the state of Israel and vice versa. And that's what it's about, folks, and that's where it will start. And we're right on the cusp of it. And I think that us seeing this and everything, I think that they were going to attack Iraq, Israel was, and Trump told them not to, wasn't it? And I know that Syria's going after people. And it's just like every which way. It's becoming mass chaos there in the Middle East, happening fast too.
What are your thoughts there, Derrick?
Well, I think it's been way too quiet for way too long, and I think things are about to pick up. I've been kind of thinking to myself, things have sort of come to a dull roar, I guess, even within our country. It seems like, for the first few weeks of Trump's presidency, things were happening left and right. Now, it's kind of slowed off a little bit. I'm wondering about the JFK files, if they ever, they were supposed to be fully released today. Haven't really heard much about it, but certainly things are starting to ramp up again. We're seeing Israel break the ceasefire over there. We're seeing them just bomb the snot out of Hamas. I think there's over 300 Palestinians that have been killed over there in Gaza by Israel. So, I think that we're just kind of in one of those ebbs and flows, but things are about to pick up. I really, again, this is kind of like, this is not thus saith the Lord. This is not me making a prophecy. It's me making a prediction, which is slightly different, because it's just a speculation. Okay. This is like me filling out my, March Madness Final Four brackets. It's just a prediction. It's just a speculation. But I really think from like right now up until the Passover season, which is about a month from now, you're going to see things really ramp up and really get crazy, because I really do think that they still want to sacrifice the red heifer. I don't think they're talking about it, but I think it's over there, and I think they want to do it. The Palestinians know this. As well as you've got everything else going on with Russia and Ukraine. Putin said that he wasn't going to agree to a full ceasefire, but he was going to make some concessions about, things that may have American interest. So things are going on all around the world. And we're just, like I said, I think we're just kind of at the tip of the iceberg right now. I think it's going to get kind of whacked out over the next few weeks. That's my opinion.
As I've said before, and I'm going to say it again, all of what you're seeing right now plays into Jeremiah chapter 47 and Joel chapter 3. Joel chapter 3, Jeremiah 47 are the exact same event taking place. And when you start to get into Jeremiah and you look at Jeremiah 47, 48, and 49, it is a domino effect from 47 all the way to 49, ending with Iran. And in Iran is Elam, the prophecy of Elam, or the Elam prophecy. And that what is interesting about the Elam prophecy is the way it's worded. It makes you think that maybe like a nuclear facility is hit in Iran that is attacked, and then there's nuclear radiation that gets released. And everybody in Iran is like peacing out in every which way that they can go, is what it looks like to me. Like when you look at the Elam prophecy, but the things that are prophesied against is Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Damascus. I think all of this, I think it's going to kick off, and when it kicks off, it's going to be boom, 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 boom down the line real fast.
Yep.
No, what's interesting is that whole the whole region. Like if you go through the whole Bible, Turkey, you can almost argue that the whole Bible is about Turkey. I know that sounds kind of weird, but when you get through the table of nations, and then you see Abram, who's from Ur of Chaldees, and God calls him, he answers the call, and he starts making his way west. And his dad dies in the region of Aram. I guess that would be the easiest way to say right there in that area. And then, which is also Haran, that area. And that's basically on the east side of Turkey. And then you have the Ark, which landed on the east side of Turkey as well, which is kind of, out of all the places on the planet you can land that Ark, you land it in Turkey. And in the book of Revelation, we got 7 churches amongst us, and they're in Western Turkey. So what's going on with Turkey? Why is it so important?
It's all about Thanksgiving.
Who had the name first? Was it the country first and then the food, or the food and then the country?
Thank you. These are the important questions, Derrick.
Right.
I'm trying to go
This
deep
is the
here.
true Black Swan event right here.
That's right. That's right.
Off the record.
Stump the panelists. All of a sudden, we're all quiet. It's like, you know what? I never thought about that. The whole thing, just Turkey.
It's
right to the end of time. It is.
There's a lot of Turkey in the Bible, though. That's for sure. I mean, there's a lot of connections in there, and you could make the case for other countries. There are plenty of other nations listed in there. The one that's really not there is us. I hate to say it, or you guys either up there in Canada. All of North America, we're kind of, we're not the cool kids. We're not in the cool kids club.
There could be arguments about Takorma and the lines thereof in Ezekiel.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying about that could pertain to Great Britain and the lines thereof, the young lines thereof being pertaining to America, but it's speculation.
Yes.
Yeah, it's an interesting dive. I might have to do a deep dive on Turkey itself. It's funny, we have all kinds of sayings and all kinds of stuff, like let's just talk Turkey, that kind of thing. I don't know where those
Don't you make me do my turkey call. I'll do it.
Every time you said turkey, I'm going to have to do it now.
This will go off the rails real quick. I'll do my turkey call if you make me. Don't you do it.
Well, when you think about America, Turkey as well. Like that, I would argue with you, Americans, that you celebrate Thanksgiving more than you do Christmas or any other holiday in the year next to the Super Bowl. I would say Thanksgiving is the most popular family gathering, and then Christmas is kind of leftover stuff. It's kind of what it feels like. Like here in Canada, Thanksgiving is cool, but it's on like October 10th or something. And then we gear up for Christmas. Christmas is a big deal in Canada. But I think in America, Thanksgiving is your national holiday. All kinds of stuff is going on. You got parades going, whatever. We just kind of like, we get together for dinner, we're done. But I think that's a staple that defines America is your Thanksgiving dinner. Correct me if I'm wrong or if I'm out to lunch, and I'll buy you guys a turkey sandwich.
No, you're absolutely right. You're right. But you know what? It's a good holiday because really it's America's only godly holiday. And it was, if you don't know this, anybody listening, fun fact, if you don't know this, Thanksgiving was based on the Feast of Tabernacles. That's what the original founding fathers, they wanted to have a feast similar to the Feast of Tabernacles, where they were just expressing their gratitude, their gratefulness unto the Lord for getting them over here into this new land, for helping them to survive in this new land. And it wasn't exactly the way, I mean, it was similar to the way it was pictured, with, them celebrating with their Native American neighbors and stuff like that. That's kind of become something that, is more like tradition, but it didn't officially become a holiday until, I want to say like maybe the 1920s or something like that. But originally, when that was first established, when they first came over here, that's what it was. They were trying to, these were godly people. Don't get away from the fact that America was birthed out of Christianity. And these were godly people. They were trying to give thanks to the Lord. And so I love Thanksgiving just for that reason, because if you celebrate Thanksgiving, it begs the question, who are you giving thanks to? You got to give thanks to someone. I mean, some Americans, I guess they just want to thank themselves or thank their job for providing them great things. But it's really, it's all about God. It's all about giving thanks to God. So,
do you know when we celebrated the first Thanksgiving in Canada?
No, when is that?
1578, if you can believe it.
Wow.
Yep. And your guys' first holiday was in the 16th century, 1621 in Plymouth Colony. Plymouth Colony. I guess you guys know where that is. Mm-hmm.
Massachusetts, yeah.
Which you wonder sometimes if people that don't know how to say Massachusetts are from the tribe of Ephraim. Because remember that story where they're getting executed left, right, and center? They would say Sibboleth, and they go Shibboleth, off with his head. He's done. Kill him. Shibboleth. Shibboleth.
Can you guys hear me? Can you see me?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. His screen's been frozen for like.
We can hear you, but yeah, you.
I thought you were just. You're just like being real quiet there. We could see you.
The most serious look on Repo Man's face right now.
Right?
What do you have to say, Repo Man?
No, nothing. I was just like, I wonder if they can hear me. I don't want to stop it, leave the studio, and come back in, because then I have to restart, and I got 318 people in the live chat. So I don't want to do that. So everybody has to look at me sitting still.
Try hitting in the studio. Try hitting your stop cam button.
I did,
and come back like that, and it might. Sometimes it unsticks you.
Mm-hmm.
I did try it, but it didn't work last time.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
Kind of feels like he's like Ben Kenobi now. Luke, trust your feelings. Oh no!
I wish I had a smile on my face or something at that moment.
I feel like the Bat and Repo Man are looking at me in the same way, and I'm just kind of like, I don't. You know what I mean?
I think it's okay for you, Mike, to restart
like March 26th, Josh.
It'll still be feeding. It'll just be blank on your channel. Like it'll just be a little hiccup, but people don't just leave the second you're gone. Unless you're expecting hundreds
No, I'm saying
people.
if I oh, you mean
it won't end on your channel. It doesn't end.
So leave studio. Oh, leave studio and then come back, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm leaving studio now.
And he will be back. If you're watching on Repo Man's channel, he's coming right back.
Coming back. Don't leave.
Don't leave, please. Don't go anywhere. He'll be right back.
Don't do it. Don't do
it. Airhorn baby. Remember Airhorn baby?
I actually thought he was just mesmerized by my monologue. I thought, wow, I stumped Repo Man. He's just sitting there frozen in time. I've done that to my wife. I'll say something and she'll be like, I'm like, are you frozen?
Tobias says cardboard figurine Mike.
There he is.
There we go.
Oh, I see. Okay, no, it didn't. It didn't get rid of everybody. All right,
Yeah.
yay. Okay,
Yeah.
we're good.
We told him, don't go anywhere. He'll be right back.
He's coming
I'm gonna
back.
keep smiling in the event I freeze again.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Oh man, almost lost my coffee. Okay, we're talking turkey here.
Talking turkey.
Talking turkey. So
I
in the
know. I knew I
15th
wasted my
century-
time on timelines. I should have figured out Turkey. What was I thinking all these years? I could have figured out Turkey.
Exactly. So let me.
Interesting. Okay, sorry.
I was just gonna say, let's just dive in a little bit about the history of Thanksgiving. So Thanksgiving itself, as it's celebrated in North America, is not pagan, Derrick.
No,
Not pagan, just
not
like
at
you said.
all.
In origin, but it shares similarities with ancient pagan harvest festivals
Hmm.
simply because the theme of gratitude and harvest festivals predates Christianity and exists in many cultures worldwide.
Hmm.
That's kind of interesting as well. And obviously, some of this comes over from the Celtic harvest. You know, you got the Romans, you got the Greek harvest celebrations, such as Samhain. I'm not familiar with those at all.
Samhain is Halloween.
Yeah.
Samhain. Okay, cool. I knew somebody would know that.
Flood day.
Halloween. What's
The
that?
day the floods. Halloween's the day the flood started. Yeah.
It's the
Oh.
celebration of the Celtic Lord of the Dead.
Yeah.
The day the flood started. So when the flood was over is 40 days, and then obviously the waters, if you go by the King James Authority Bible, is assuaged.
Assuaged. Yeah.
Okay, so October 31st, Halloween, flood, and then 40
And
days after
150
that is
days
what?
later, actually, the King James says 150 days later, the waters began to assuage, and
Yes.
150 days later is the cross. You must land on the cross, which is why the
Interesting.
sliver moon will never work. And then 3 days later, in the 7th month and 17th day, the ark rested, reversed the curse, which is the day Jesus rose.
It's
Yeah.
so fascinating again that
It
like
lines up.
to time the water to recede that
Yeah.
touches down on that's the day of the resurrection, or is that
Yeah.
the day he was crucified that the ark
So the
touches
day he
down?
was crucified or he gave up the ghost is 150 days after the flood. That's the moment the waters began to recede.
Interesting.
Remember, the waters were 15 feet above the tallest mountain.
Yes.
The ark,
Yes.
or is it 45 feet? I don't recall. I did the
Yeah,
math
it's
on
like
it.
30 cubits or 15 cubits.
And the ark set into the water about, it wound up, I did the math on it one time. It was 5 feet from the top of Mount Ararat. So when the waters began to assuage,
Yeah.
it only had to go down 5 feet before he landed on Mount Ararat.
Give or take a
Pretty
bit.
cool.
Yeah, because I think he was floating around a little bit while the waters were coming down because he kept sending ravens out and stuff.
Hmm.
No land
Well,
anywhere, and then the dove, and
actually,
then the
he
dove
did
had
all
some-
that after the ark landed.
Oh, it's
That's
after.
done.
It's
Oh yeah,
after
the
he
ark
landed.
had set down, and he started sending out the raven and the doves.
Hmm.
That happened on, I think it was the 10th of Av, and then I
So
have
you
I have
don't
the
think he
timeline.
started doing that right after it stopped raining to
Yeah.
check things out? Like you don't like day 41, let's just say.
It was also
Just-
symbolic. You got the raven and the dove. They were both sent out, but the dove comes back and he draws him in.
Yeah, I
So
get it.
it's
I'm
all
just
very symbolic. But yeah, that's
yeah.
what happened.
Okay, so they're in the ark. After day 40, it's no more rain. They're listening. There's
That's
no more pelting of rain.
yes.
And then they wait another
110 days.
before he takes out the raven.
No, 110 days. The waters begin to recede, and then 3 days later, the ark rests. That would be the 1st month and 14th day, but the 5th month and 9th day is when he sent out the raven and the dove.
So
He
where do you
literally
think
sat in that ark for
where do
4
you
months.
where do you think the ark was built?
Where? I
Yeah.
don't. I don't know. I'd have to go check extra biblical books to know that for certain.
I know where.
I'm not sure. You know
What
where?
do you think?
Arkansas.
Oh, nice. Nice.
We talked
Actually,
to.
there are people that think that the ark was actually built in the United States of America. And when
Oh.
you watch some of the crazy stuff,
Yeah, there's some
You
crazy
go down that
ideas.
rabbit hole, you're like, you may not come out of that rabbit hole, but they do have a little bit of legs to go, you know what? Nobody knows where the ark was built. And there's areas in Florida and all kinds of stuff that it's like, man, it's so beautiful that it is quite tropical. And when you look at Israel today, you're like, okay, if the ark was going to be built in Iran, like the territory just looks, well, I shouldn't say Iran because it was beautiful at one time and probably arguably still is. I have friends that say
that's
it
an
is the most
entire
amazing place on the planet. So,
yeah.
but if you have an ark somewhere, it's got to drift. There's currents. We know that, all that stuff. But most people will say it was either built in Israel or was built in Mesopotamia, somewhere like that. And then after a year, whatever, so many months, it floated only 800, 600 miles or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I kind of think maybe it might have been built somewhere else out of the Middle East. And I'm
I don't know
leaning
where it was
towards the
built,
States, but I'm not sure.
I do know that Greenland was tropical
Yeah.
and Russia was tropical and
Yep.
Florida was frozen. Everything during that period of time, that's a whole study that I've done. The Earth was actually pointed at Ursa Major.
Well, if you
Correct. Yeah,
if
it
you,
was pointed at Ursa Major, and then during the flood, it shifted to Ursa Minor, and that's why the poles all shifted. Yeah, when it says every mountain out of its place and every island moved, it's not literally talking about every mountain being destroyed. No human would survive. It's talking about you won't be able to get a GPS location any longer because everything's changed.
Well, they're already saying that GPS is like, what is it, 90 miles off or something like that? Like, and I think that's why they invented the global positioning system, is to keep things kind of, society is in their system going the way it is, because I think the crust is floating. You know what I mean? It says the earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard. It's going to shift back and forth. And that's what's destabilizing the weather patterns, along with all the mumbo jumbo they're spraying. We won't get into that, but I absolutely think that, it's a possibility that, poles are shifting. Heaven's rolling up like the scroll, the heavens rolling up like a scroll. The pole shift would definitely make that happen.
I think that's affecting our weather too. I think that's why you see one day it feels like summer. It's like 80 degrees. It's beautiful. And then boom, 2 days later, you got the heater running. It's like 30 degrees outside. And it's, it's wacky. The jet stream has gone wacky,
I've always I've always had a little bit of a theory, and this is probably outside of the 99 percentile.
Off the record,
that the weather that we see from time to time is being dispatched from angels from heaven, because there's hail, there's lightnings, there's all kinds of stuff that are in storehouses in heaven. And I know that's kind of mythical, I guess, in some ways. But at the same time, it's like, man, when you see a weather person on TV going through the medium channels and they get it wrong and they don't let you know that in Florida tomorrow there is a tornado or a hurricane, and they're like, yeah, we didn't see this coming. I'm like, yeah, well, maybe there's good angels, bad angels, whatever, that are using some of these weather environment. I don't know. I can't figure it out, but it to say that it's just because this has always happened, all these weather patterns, and then we can predict weather, I would have to question just about every scientist on the planet that didn't predict earthquakes, Mount St. Helens, all this stuff until after it happened. Then they get all their readings and go, oh yeah, we should have saw this coming. It's kind of weird, man. The mountain was ready to blow, but we just didn't believe. Like, everything is after the fact. So that tells me you guys, meaning the weather people, they don't know what the patterns are. They can only guess Gulf Streams and all this stuff, but they don't know why this house gets destroyed or this neighborhood, and they don't know why this one gets engulfed in flames and this one gets hit by a mud flood. This one doesn't. A sinkhole appears over here. Like, it's kind of a mystery because nobody could figure it out, is my point.
It's a mystery wrapped in a riddle, settled in an enigma.
There you go. I guess my point is we don't know as much as we think we know, especially when it comes to environment, because we say things like, oh yeah, it's getting warmer and warmer and warmer. And then you got the ice age and they're like, yeah, that's just cyclical. It gets warmer and warmer and then it gets colder and colder. And that's just how it happens. Okay, well, are we not doing that right now? No, man, that's man-made.
The past 3 years where I live has been unseasonably warm and during the winter times. Like there's barely been any snow on the ground, just extremely cold temperatures. This year,
where do you live?
We got hammered.
Where do you live again? Michigan. Okay.
Michigan. And
the land of the lakes, right?
Yeah. Well, no, the land of the lakes, I think, is Minnesota. But Michigan is known for our Great Lakes that surround us. But we're the winter wonderland, I think, is what it is. Anyways, this year though, we got hammered with snow to the point where we couldn't even see over the banks, really, like pulling out of the driveway and stuff. Like you got to get up there and shovel the top of the bank down and push it back so that way you can see, so you don't get hit when you pull out of your driveway. I mean, it was gnarly, but we're finally at a point now where, you know, all the snow's gone and it's melting off pretty quick. We're getting some pretty warm weather, and it's real flip-floppy weather. I've never seen it like this before, man. And I've lived in this state for 31 years. You know what I mean? So it's been wild.
Yeah, it's interesting that we don't really have any technology, I guess, to be able to track your weather patterns beyond, like, let's say, roughly 200 years is kind of our ceiling. Right. We can't go. And it's like, you see all these magnificent structures and all that stuff all over the world built by the Tatarians. Off the record, don't know who they're built by, but like amazing structures. Josh and I were talking a little bit about the pre-flood, like some of the pyramids, all this kind of stuff. And it's like, we don't know how they're built today. Like we can guess, we can just take wild guesses as to how they're built. Giants, good one, makes sense. But besides that, we can't do the same thing as what they did 1,000, 2,000, 4,000 years ago. We don't know how they did it with horse and buggy, is what they basically say. So you have all this mystery and enigma with technology and all this stuff. And yet we got patterns, again, back to the weather people that are saying, we know exactly how this is going to happen. Okay, but your measuring mechanisms that you're using only goes back arguably as far as 200 years, and that's it. So how do you know our weather patterns aren't based on 300-year data,
right?
Or 400-year, or 500?
That's right.
It's the best guess right now.
You don't know. Hey, you know, I was looking while you were talking, I was looking up something kind of interesting. I want to pull us back to the Ark subject for just a minute. What you talking about, like you know, like where was the Ark built? Okay.
Yep.
Because really, you know, if we go to the Bible, we find a lot of little tidbits that will help us to you know, formulate a hypothesis. So Genesis chapter 10 is all about the genealogy of Noah. Everybody that descended from Noah, and this is after the flood. This is after everybody's safe and sound back on terra firma, planet Earth. I'm not going to bore you with the whole genealogy, but you know, you can read through chapter 10, gives you a whole genealogy. But if you get all the way down to verse 25, verse 25 says, to Eber were born 2 sons. The name of the one was Peleg, for in his days the earth was divided, and his brother's name was Joktan. So Peleg, you know, I guess means divide. And this is giving us like the little footnote. In this guy's days, the earth was divided. Now, have any of you guys ever heard of Pangaea? That at one point the earth was one big continent, that there were no continents. And actually, if you look at like Africa and South America, you know, you could almost make like a little puzzle. If you could fold them all up, it almost looks like all the continents. So the idea is that there was at one point just one continent. There were no 7 continents. There was just the one. Right. And that eventually the earth broke up in this gentleman, you know, Peleg or whatever in his days. So, you know, all I'm saying is that if this happened after the flood, then is it not conceivable that the ark could have literally been built anywhere? Yeah. And because it was all one continent and then flooded and floated up. And anyway, just a tidbit.
Yeah, it's possible. It'd be interesting to do a study where, like, maybe somebody's done it, where you build the animation and then you push all the continents together, and then go, okay, based on that and based on drift, we don't know the currents, we don't know the wind, whatever. How far could someone on an arc of that size travel with, let's just use current conditions? Like, there is a current right now in the ocean, depending where you go. Like, how far can you actually go on a boat given a year, and given there's a flood, a massive flood? Maybe there's what do you call it, tsunamis that actually push this arc a little bit further out as well.
You probably
faster.
circle the planet 30 times. Yeah.
So what's going on here?
There's still so much
anywhere.
So much we don't know too. Like, you know, somebody in here said continents don't float. Panacea wouldn't work. Continents don't have to float. I mean,
can I say this real quick on that? And I'll say it, make it quick. Anything can float if you put if you calculate the Moho-Rubistic discontinuity, which me and Shane were talking about earlier.
So big words.
Yeah, but
he does. He has all the big words.
The other thing to consider,
and he
too,
remembers them.
We just don't know. We don't have a concept of what happened in those days. We can't conceive of what happened. Is it possible that the whole Earth, you know, was one big ball, one big mass, no
eyeball.
Oceans? And yeah, exactly. And so now the flood covers the Earth, and when it starts to recede, starts to dry out, there's only one little patch. That's where Noah and his people were, one little patch. Yeah. And so what do you do to make more room for more people? What I'm saying is, what if the Earth got bigger? What if the whole Earth started out like this, and to make room for the oceans, God went, divided all the continents, made the Earth bigger so that the waters would go down into the basins and the continents would arise? You know,
that's an interesting thought.
Again, we don't know, but we got to open our minds a little bit, and not just, that couldn't happen. Well, you know, anything can happen with God.
The interesting thing with the flood, when Noah sent the dove out, and the dove came back with an olive leaf, right? Well, an olive leaf was plucked from something that was living. It wasn't an example, like, otherwise the dove could just be like, oh, there's an olive leaf floating. Coincidentally, it dropped and did a dive bomb into the water and then back up, and there you go, Noah. I saved myself 50 miles of flying time today. It's the idea is because the Earth flooded so fast and so quickly that everything that had life in it died. Everything that had breath in it died. But that's not to say some of the plant life couldn't come back.
Right.
Once the water's starting assuaging. Right. And then all of a sudden you see, because we know this happens. You can have a flood, and then after a month or whatever, these plants are coming back. Like right away, and it's luscious, it's rich soil, all this stuff. So the reason why I bring that up is this dove grabbing an olive tree could give us also an idea of what region. Obviously, we know where it landed, but it's interesting that if the last surfaces to be covered were the mountains, they would be the ones that have plant life that could respond quicker than something that is in a valley. Good luck having crops in a valley somewhere, because they've already been underwater for a long time, and that we know what happened, like the Grand Canyon, all this kind of stuff. Like you're not going to be harvesting crops in that type of a river environment. It's not going to happen. But on a mountain, like, I don't know, I'd have to take off my shoes and socks and go on that mountain where the ark landed. How long before the waters actually started to decrease? Because it was only, I think the waters, like Repo Man said, like maybe 15 to 30 meters above every single mountain. And then
what is a meter? Does anybody here know what a meter is?
Oh, sorry.
No idea.
3.2 feet or something.
About a yard.
The point is, when the top.
Oh, why did you say so?
The highest mountain is covered by water. It could be covered for minutes, if not hours, before it starts going back down.
So the Bible says it started to recede on day 150. But remember, he was on the ark for a year and 10 days. So that represents you're still left with what, 192 days after that? I would think. Does that add up right?
Yeah, I can't remember like
Something to
total
that
on the
effect.
ark. Yeah. It's a
No, he
while.
was on the ark all the way up until 10 days, 1 year and 10 days after he got onto it. But the ark set down on the 153rd day, and then he stayed on it.
Still
He just
stayed
on it, and that time is when the waters kept going down. And it says in the Bible that a strong wind blew to dry up the waters.
Yes.
That doesn't make mathematical sense in our understanding. It must have been the waters came from under, and the waters went back down under. Is the only thing I can think of.
Yep, the fountains
where
of
the
the
waters
deep.
went.
Yeah, for
The
sure.
fountains of the deep.
Yeah, exactly. And you can go all scientific and go, there's more water under the earth as well that we know nothing about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
well,
there's currents, there's rivers, there's all kinds of stuff.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
even have to get
I
into
have
like,
a tunnel here.
Being an amateur geologist,
Hmm.
they in looking for different rocks and gemstones and gold prospecting and stuff like that. It's been a hobby a long time. There is things called water course caves in mountains, where there's water that's subterranean that flows
Yes.
down a mountain. You
Yes,
can't even see it, and it's there.
Yeah. Yeah, we know
And
that.
I'll actually remark and say at the summit of Mount Mitchell, there's a water course cave, and there's all sorts of cool little rocks in this area that I found, and they're called ventifacts because the water is flowing so consistently. The stones are polished naturally, like literally come out shiny and polished and smooth.
Yeah.
So if you have waters in the heavens that are being opened up, like doors opening up, and then you have waters underneath the earth being opened up, that gives rise to why the earth will never get flooded again in that same way. Because I think it was supernatural that God actually had to do something a little bit spectacular to flood the earth in the short of period of time as he did. And people are like, it doesn't make any sense that it would rain and flood the whole earth. That's because you don't know how to read. It says
so. It didn't really. The rain might have stopped at 40 days, but the waters from the deep kept coming up and kept bringing the ark up.
Yeah, exactly. This is something that doesn't happen today. When you get a little flood in Florida somewhere, and it's like, oh man, it's raining cats and dogs. Maybe.
Yeah.
And there's some people that believe that, there was multiple firmaments created, that one of those firmaments was water.
Yes.
And that came down.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And, I'm not saying there's not a firmament. I'm not saying there's not a firmament,
Right.
but I'm saying that a firmament of water came down, was part of that flood. The clouds poured rain. The fountains of the deep opened up, and that was, the Noahic flood.
That would also explain something else, by the way, for anybody who's listening. If you're just listening to us rap about this stuff and just kind of getting into it, that explains another kind of a Bible mystery that some people wonder about. They're like, how did Methuselah live 969 years? How did all these people live so long? If there was a firmament of water all around the earth, I've heard scientists say that would make us like a barometric pressure chamber, that the oxygen in the Earth's atmosphere would actually be pressurized. There'd be a higher concentration of oxygen that would cause us to live longer, be healthier, because we're breathing in like almost pure oxygen all the time.
That's actually been proven in historical plant life. It's actually a fact. Yes.
Now the thing that I think is interesting though is again, and this is why I say it's only a theory, but like if the Earth, if it expanded right after the flood, because here's the question that I have. Okay, so the waters that were under the earth, they could go back under the earth, but all those waters that were in the firmament, that cat's out of the bag. They're on the earth. They didn't go back. We don't have a firmament like that anymore. So where did they go? To me, it makes sense that God would have to expand the earth a little bit to give them room to subside.
I like that. I'd never thought of that. I like that theory.
If we're going along the case of, or the idea of theories, one of the ideas that I had was, what if you partook of the tree of life and you have 1,000 years to live? Once you get close to that 1,000-year spectrum, you got to take that tree of life again, because Adam, for some mysterious reason, died at 9:30, which is interesting that 70 years away from hitting the 1 grand mark, and he was obviously kicked out of the garden and all this stuff. And one of the things that God said, if we let him or let them partake of the tree of life, it's almost like they're going to be frozen in that state of sin that there's no going back, right?
Yes.
So then you see the oldest person, Methuselah, getting closer to the flood, living the longest as the flood is approached. Like arguably, they say he died the same year of the flood, or just
he died 7 days before the flood. He died the day that Noah was told to get into the ark. Noah buried him.
Right.
Noah gets into the ark with the animals, and he sits there for 7 days.
That's what his name means, by the way. Mot in Hebrew is death. Metu shalach, when he dies, it will come.
Right.
So that's why he lived the longest, because everybody was feeding him vitamins and giving him exercise and telling him not to do it because they knew.
Well, to go with Repo Man's theory and Derrick's, as the barometric pressure changes, it's changing because there's a flood coming. And if you think about all the animals, I think, and this is a weird stat, somebody can fact check it in the crowd here. You can argue that 70 to 80% of the animals today hibernate in some fashion. So if you change the barometric pressure, and if you have, let's say, ice walls, snow, bad temperatures, you could squeeze these animals to go to one area just by changing the barometric pressure. And the birds are like, man, if we stay on the outskirts of this weather pattern, it's going to be hard for us to fly. So we got to fly somewhere where the food source is, which you could say would be where the ark was. These animals loved people back then, and they're going to gravitate towards ark.
So in extra biblical books, what happened was there's a story of a lioness bringing her 2 cubs to the ark, and the 2 cubs turned on the mother to scare her away because she was trying to get on the ark too. I know this is an extra biblical book.
Right.
It's called It's called Legends of the Jews. You can read it for yourself. So every animal that was on the ark was a baby. They were drinking milk still. They were just babies, and they didn't grow during that year. Just like the Israelites' clothing, when they were walking around for 40 years, the clothing never got old. It never got dirty. It never wore out. They could wear the same piece of clothing every day for 40 years.
Right. And I think that becomes another level. Like, I'm not trying to question how the animals could fit on the ark. I'm just saying that scientifically, you could say it got pretty quiet on the ark pretty quick, where these animals are hibernating because of the pressure outside just made them go sleepy time, whatever. Like, and also a lot of animals sleep standing up, which is weird too. Like the big ones, they can sleep standing up, which is like they may not need as much real estate as we think they need, and all this kind of stuff. So birds, you have all kinds of creatures that when the environment changes,
God had to intervene. There was literally no exercise on that boat for a year. You stand in one spot for a year. Even a horse will lay down.
Yeah.
No, it's he brought them in there. He brought bird eggs in there. He didn't bring living birds. Everything was tiny and
puppies instead of dogs.
Juvenile, correct? Yeah, and they weren't interested in eating each other at that point. But when they were let off the ark, I don't know if they instantly became a year older or if they just grew up out there.
You would have to study migration patterns to know at what age an animal is that they start migrating. If they are infant or babies or whatever, or do they follow parents and then the parents ditch them for whatever reason as they get closer? We don't know, because we know God can also influence animals. We see this when the ark was actually being transported from Gaza back to Shiloh or wherever it was. And the Philistines were like, let's put these tumors, put these rats, all this kind of stuff. And let's get a new cart, and let's get these put on these young calves, if you will, that are mooing. I don't know what else to say, but basically crying out for their mom. because they were just being weaned or whatever from their mother. So they're bellowing because they want milk, but yet they're still going in a direction to prove to the Philistines that this was an act of God to take these here. Because they said if these two young calves or whatever don't go in that direction, this is what we call just a bad luck day. This is just a bad day in the land of the Philistines. It's just bad luck. That's all that was. But these animals went to Shiloh. So if animals do that then with the ark, who's to say that God can't manipulate young animals like Mike said? Hey, they just start migrating towards the ark. They know where food is. We know animals love food. Every time you see a flood in modern days, you're going to see a rat. You're going to see some animal that somehow gets into a house whenever there's a flood because they know where the food source is.
Mm-hmm. I shouldn't say this. It's going to hurt a lot of feelings. Your dog doesn't love you. Your dog loves the fact that you feed him.
You feed him. He knows where the source is.
My dog loves me. I don't know what you're talking about. I just showed you my dog. He's cool.
Stop feeding him, and he will eat you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, like animals,
they do love us, but they do love us because we feed them.
Exactly. And that's something, even with the birds that migrated on ships, which is interesting when you think about it. The European ships that came over, people fleeing from Europe to come to Canada and the US, were all on ships full of rats and all kinds of stuff, but barn swallows, which is interesting because every year I get birds in my backyard and they love hanging around people because there's food sources and they're not going to get eaten by cougars when they hang around with people. So the birds are smart. They like hanging around people. Mm-hmm. So imagine the ark. These birds are probably in heaven on rafters everywhere. It's like, this is cool beans, man. We're good to go.
That's right.
Yeah, just like that. There, bats hanging upside down, all kinds of
Somebody says
stuff.
You're getting COVID from that bat repo, man.
I saw that.
What's Gary eating?
Gary was sending that to me too. His cookies.
Oh, wow.
I told Gary for listening. I don't know if he's listening. I told him, I texted him back. I said, bro, you're making me break the 10th commandment right now. You're making me hungry and you're making me jealous, you know?
Yeah, envious.
So, my feelings are hurt. Gary never texts me.
Oh,
he never sends me any pictures of cookies.
Oh, well,
dude, check this one out right here. Look at these cookies, man. Look at these cookies.
Yeah, that guy texts you? You guys are like bros.
Have you guys ever heard of Bill Burr? Bill Burr, the comedian?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
I don't recommend him because he cusses quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you're a little bit down in the spirits, there was one story that he told that he went into a coffee shop and he's standing in line and the guy looks at him behind the till and goes, do you want a cookie? And Bill Burr got so mad, he started cussing under his breath. And he's like, I can't believe that this guy, like, do I look like a child that wants a cookie and all this? And he's just berating the guy. And then he said, the truth be told, deep down inside, I kind of wanted a cookie.
Yeah.
I just lost it when he was
I only want a Gary Gates cookie right here. That's all I want, man. That's all
Gary
I want for
Gates
Christmas.
cookie. Well, you know they're going to be good.
It's a Gary Gates cookie right here. Look at that.
Yes.
That's a true chef right there. That dude can cook, man. I'm super peanut butter and jealous.
Yeah.
No, but for real, I'm for real though. Repo Man, people are saying you're gonna have to get a COVID swab because of that bat hanging above you, bro.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Gary was down here. He came to visit me last week. He brought me some of those famous cookies.
Oh, just rub it in, Derrick. Why don't you?
They will make you want to punch your grandma in the mouth. They are so good. And he brought me, listen to this. He brought me a couple loaves of sourdough bread and some homemade honey butter. And that was,
I love honey butter.
You could put that honey butter on anything is going to make it better. I will guarantee you that was really good. It was really good.
You know, what's interesting is, Derrick will love this. When you, we hear Jesus Christ talking about I am the bread of life.
Mm-hmm.
I am the lamb. I'm this, I'm that, I'm this, I'm everything, right? Like he goes
All
on,
that
but
in a bag of chips.
we don't fully picture what Christ is doing when he says this stuff, right? Like you just kind of glean over it in the New Testament. But what's interesting, and I'd be interested to hear your perspective on this, Derrick, is when I went to the King James Bible Museum in Phoenix, Arizona, they showed me a scroll that was dated probably 500 plus years. And these scrolls actually were written on a lambskin. So basically, they would kill a lamb, sacrifice a lamb, if you will, and put it on these, on basically in between these two sticks, and roll them out from right to left. They'd roll them out, and then when they're done, they roll them back together, hiding it. But when you roll it out, you can't help but see the lambskin and the words on it. And do you know what those two sticks are called, Derrick?
I did at one point, and I don't remember, but I did know.
Sticks.
No, there's a name for them.
Trees of life.
Trees of life. That's right. Yeah, it's Chaim.
So you have the lamb between the trees of life, if you will, tree of life, two sticks. Every time a Jew opens up a scroll, an ancient scroll, if you will, and rolls it open, you can't help but see the Lamb of God,
yes,
representing the tree of life, representing death, to die for us, to get us the word. He is the word. He is the breath. He is our everything. So if you digest his words, it changes your DNA as well. This is why he says you got to eat of my body, drink of my blood, which is offensive to some people. But when Jesus said, if you go back in time and you think about why Moses lifted up the bronze serpent, people were getting struck left, right, and center by these fiery serpents.
Yep.
But if they look towards that vaccine, I want to say, which was the bronze serpent, because if you look at it, you're healed. That's it. You don't have to do anything else. You live. So when you think about vaccines, they are almost like, the dumbest way to say it is they're anti-venom kind of thing. But in a way they are, because medicine, all this stuff, like if you look at Christ, there is a serpent on the cross that was anti-venom for the people that got bit by fiery serpents. So Jesus said, I'm going to be almost, I'm paraphrasing here, an anti-venom for you so that you can live forever. You just have to look to me on that cross and believe in me.
And how simple was that?
From the beginning.
He didn't say, look at me on the cross and then go get baptized and go walk old ladies across the street, donate all your money. No, he didn't say any of that. He said, just look at the serpent. It's that simple. It's literally that simple.
From the beginning of creation, we see all these symbologies of Jesus, even from the very beginning, when, Adam and Eve bit from this fruit and went and hid and sewed fig leaves together to cover their nakedness. And God kicked them out of the Garden of Eden, but he covered them with skins. You know what I'm saying? Yes. And I truly believe deep down in the bottom of my heart and in the bottom of my spirit that it was lamb skin that he covered them with, symbolic of what he planned to do, the redemptiveness of what his plan was.
I thought it was snakeskin boots was on Adam, and that's where we get snakeskin boots from, right there.
But what you're saying is so true, Shane, because like even Jesus himself said, he said, as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, so must the Son of Man be lifted up. And he said, if the Son of Man be lifted up, he will draw all nations unto him. And what it is, in a sense, like you mentioned, a vaccine. Okay, so a true vaccine. Let's talk about what a true vaccine is, and we won't get too deep, so we don't get into too much trouble. But a true vaccine, like when I was a kid, And I used to have to get vaccines to go to school, and it wasn't very many. It was like 2 or 3 different, nowadays you got to get like, 48 or 72 or whatever. But back when I was a kid, it was 3 or 4, maybe 5,
Yes.
and all it was a weakened version of something that could hurt you. Whether it was something that could kill you or get you very sick, they would weaken it down. So that your body could handle it, and you could develop your own immunity to it, and you could overcome it. Okay. So what in essence was that serpent on the pole? It was an admission of their sin. Those snakes were poisonous. They could kill them, and they were there for a reason. They were there because they had annoyed God. They had tested God in the wilderness. So God sent them because they were sinners. We have to remember why they were there. So if you looked at that weakened version, that snake up on the pole that couldn't really hurt you, it gave you a repentance of mind to say, now I know why these snakes are biting me, because it's my sin. And the same thing for Jesus, because he became sin for us when he hung on the cross.
Yes.
So it's a weakened down version of sin to look at the man hanging on the cross and realize, hey, he's up there with nails in his hands because of my sin, because I did it.
Yes, and that is powerful when you think about Jesus on the cross being, again, back to the cure, because that's an easier way. Because my
for sin.
Just because we're talking like this, my video is probably going to get struck. It's weird, right? The medical industry is so powerful, but I feel like this is important. Jesus said, unless you don't have any part of me, like you can't have it all.
Right.
So he said, eat of this. This is my body, which is shed for you. Take this anti-venom serum, if you will, and this is my blood. Drink it, eat it, drink it. You're going to get a watered down version. This might offend some people, but think about it. Jesus came down born of a virgin. That human being was less than God, the flesh part, not Jesus Christ, the flesh. Why? Because he could get killed.
Yep.
He needed to shed that blood, so he
had to give it up, though.
Huh?
Jesus had to give it up, though. Like he had
That's
to.
what I'm saying. He is the cure. He's given us the cure. I'm not trying to create some new doctrine and say that Christ is not God. That's not what I'm saying. In Hebrews, it says that
Jesus had to allow him to be crucified. He could totally have angels take care of business.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes. Like in Hebrews says, what is man that you would consider him? I forget how the word is, but basically he created him a little lower. Meaning that he could die. That's it. Right. He could be killed on the cross, like Josh said. He willed himself. He allowed himself to be killed. He allowed himself to. Nobody can kill him unless he allowed it, and he also has the will to be able to pick himself back up as well. Like he has both, right? So he is the ultimate cure. He is that anti-venom to the serpent that goes all the way back to the Garden of Eden.
That's right.
Striking his heel, piercing. Like it's all over the Old Testament, man. And obviously it's all over the New Testament, but even Jews can't get away from this, because here's the thing. If you are so hung up on the customs of the scrolls and the lambskin and the tree of life, why did you switch to paper? Why did you switch to parchment? If that was the tradition of killing lambs, why did you stop doing that? Arguably, unless there's some pockets that have tradition still, but you could pose a better case that they're actually switched over to paper because it's more efficient. And it's so beautiful to have a book that you can open up, and when you leave it and you come back the next day, it's still open. It's still open. You don't have to roll it up and hide it. And that's how the scrolls were, is not everybody had access to it. You have to roll it up and then reveal it at certain times, maybe a Sabbath, and everybody reads it out loud. And then the next week you continue from where you left off, and you go. So it's interesting that today we have, I would argue, the tree of life in our Bible, the words of God, which is Christ. And you see that show up at the end of Revelation, where you see a tree of life and there's leaves, which are the healing of the nations. Like, it's all over the place, man. The symbolism is crazy in the Bible.
Yep.
That ends my
Agreed.
It goes very deep.
Absolutely. Good stuff. Guys, I've got to run here shortly. So
yes, you said
if you don't mind, I just
yes.
want to give you a quick closing thought, and then I'm going to duck out and have a little dinner.
Closing thoughts.
This was what I was thinking about, as sometimes these closing thoughts come to me as we are talking, and as we've done so much talking about the ark today.
Yeah.
We all know the symbol is get on the ark. Jesus is the ark. And, I want to dispel this notion. Sometimes people that they don't want to believe that he's coming as soon as he is coming. And we're not setting dates. It's not about dates. But, there are people that think, well, God's not coming because he just wants that last soul to get saved. And let me tell you something. This is the thought I really want. If that's you, this is the thought I really want you to meditate on. There was room on that ark for more than just 8 people. Okay.
Amen.
There could have been 16 people on that ark. I'm sure there could have been 24. I'm sure probably could have fit with all those animals. You probably could have fit 80 people on that ark. And you know what? If more people wanted to get on board, God would have probably made the elephants go extinct. He probably would have said, get off the ark. I need more people. I'd rather have the room for the people.
Well, there was initially 4 and the dinosaurs were kicked off to take the other 4.
That's the whole point, is there was more room on the ark. It wasn't because God was waiting on souls to be saved, and it's like he's got to show them. So God has a point, and the point I'm really trying to drill home here is God has a time. It's already been set. We don't know when it is, but when that ark door closes, you better find yourself on the inside. So don't go around. Yes, God's merciful. Yes, God wants soul to be saved, and that's why he is tarrying. That's why his mercy is long suffering. But do not ever forget that there is coming a time when that ark door is going to close. Yes. And you just better make sure that you have yourself on that ark, which is Jesus. So I'm going to close with that. I'll see some of you guys tonight on Uptime. And brothers, it's always good to be with you. God bless you. Love you all.
You too.
Love you, man.
Thank you, man.
God bless you.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
So I was thinking about something interesting while he was talking. No,
okay. Now we can share it since he's gone. But yeah, let's do final thoughts here. Repo Man and Josh.
Just keep looking up. It's we can see the world events going on. We can see the time. We know it's almost 6,000 years from creation. Anybody can see that. We're here. Keep watching. Keep looking up. The day is drawing near. We're about to go.
Yep, I agree. It's closer today than yesterday, for sure.
What?
What? Josh?
Can I say a prayer?
No. Of course.
Too bad I'm doing it anyways. Dear Jesus, Heavenly Father, Holy Spirit, we just thank you for this time together and this fellowship, Lord. And we just ask you to bless all the watchmen here today, Lord, and their families. Keep them safe. Watch over them, Lord. And we pray for all the people in the live chat, Lord, that you do the same with them. Everybody that's going to watch this video afterwards, Lord, after it's live. And we just ask you for your Holy Spirit to be upon them, Lord, and for your blood to cover them, Jesus. And we just pray for strength in your people, healing in your people, Lord, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual, Lord. We pray for breakthrough in everyone's lives, Lord. And we pray that everybody leaves this live today, Lord, feeling refreshed and restored and renewed and rejuvenated, Jesus. And we just pray for encouragement for your people to continue fighting the good fight up until the time you do come and get us, Jesus. And we just pray for peace upon their households, Lord, over their families, over their children, Lord, protection and warrior angels to surround them and be with them, Lord, an encampment of angels, Jesus. And I just pray, Lord, that everything that they do and everywhere that they go and everything that they are will shout out your name, Jesus Christ, and that you will be glorified and magnified in everything that they do and everything that we do. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Awesome. Amen. Thank you. I always appreciate, because sometimes you just jump on a show and you kind of forget about that. That we can actually take time at the end or at the beginning or in the middle to just pray.
That's what I like about Josh. He's a prayer warrior for sure.
Yeah. So appreciate that. And Uptime is coming on tonight at 6:30 Mountain Standard, 8:30 Eastern. Wouldn't it be interesting if they are talking about Turkey and the Ark tonight and we did overtime before the show? Because usually we do overtime after to talk about what they were talking about and wrap up things with a nice little bow and stuff.
Wouldn't it be interesting? Wouldn't it be interesting if we were eating turkey while everything's going down in Turkey? You know what I'm saying? That'd be something else right there, eh?
I wasn't sure
That'd
where
be
you're
something
going
there,
with that.
bud. That'd be something there, eh?
I mean, we got to talk about Thanksgiving. We ain't making it to the next one here on Earth anyway. In heaven, yeah.
Interesting. Stimulating. Okay. So thanks everyone for being on this show. Appreciate you guys a lot. And stick around in the back and I will end this show. Ciao.
Black Swan Revelations here on YouTube brought you today's mind-bending journey. Dive into the discussion, your comments, questions, prayer requests, and powerful testimonies of Jesus' love are what fueled this community. Did today's episode hit home? Smash that like button. New here? Subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss a live stream or a video upload. Thanks for being part of today's adventure. Catch you in the next video, or maybe even in the clouds. Stay curious, stay blessed.